What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Next Pats podcast. I'm Phil Perry. We've got a bite-sized Next Pats episode for you this week, but a tremendous Next Pats episode for you this week. Nonetheless, we are talking to Quentin Johnston, one of the most explosive athletes in this year's draft class, regardless of position. Just so happens that he plays the receiver position, which we have been very focused on leading up to this year's draft because, let's face it, this remains an area of need for your New England Patriots. And before we get to our interview with Johnston, I will just mention, just having conversations with people around the league of late, the buzz seems to be that we should be focused in on the cornerback position and the receiver spot when it comes to the Patriots. And you may be sitting there saying, well, those are the spots we've already been focused on, Phil. Well, there's a position that I'm leaving out for now. And I'll just say that for now. And it's the tackle spot. And the reason I say that, just a few of the notes that have made their way to me is, number one, I'm not sure it's the strongest tackle class. And by the time the Patriots are on the board at 14, who will be available? Will Peter Skoronski be off the board? Will Paris Johnson Jr. from Ohio State, who has a lot of question marks, but is considered one of the best tackle prospects in this year's draft class because of some of the physical traits he has going for him. Will he also be off the board? Might Broderick Jones from Georgia be off the board? Even if he's on the board, is that someone the Patriots want to invest their first round pick in? He has 19 starts on the line. And yes, it was in the SEC. And yes, he was really impressive and physically, gosh, the guy is a specimen. But is this the year you want to be investing at that spot? And have the Patriots told us about their willingness to invest in that spot with number 14 overall, given what they've done this offseason already to this point? Let's keep in mind, when we look at the offensive line and we look at it big picture and we consider what that offensive line group will look like on game days, and I understand that's September, it's a long way away. You bring 3 tackles to the game. That's basically how it works. You bring 3 tackles. You have, obviously, your 2 starting tackles and a swing guy. You have your 3 starting interior offensive linemen, and you'd like to have a super sub on the offensive line, on the interior of the offensive line, specifically who can play both guard spots, maybe even some center, a Ted Karras type. James Ferentz, for instance, has done that in the past, and it's why he's in uniform quite often on game day, even though he's not the most heavily paid veteran on the offensive line across the NFL. Those guys have value, but that's essentially what your group looks like on game days. Well, the Patriots already have 3 tackles on the roster, and they, as it stands right now, are all going to be on the roster given what they're commanding financially. Riley Reif got real guaranteed money. He's going to be on the roster. Calvin Anderson got real guaranteed money. He's going to be on the roster. These guys are tackles. They're not guards. At least I don't think so. They don't look like the types that you're going to all of a sudden bump inside and have them play on the interior alongside David Andrews at left or right guard should an injury occur. That's just not how it's set up right now. They obviously still have Trent Brown under contract. And he's the one piece to me that is a little bit of a question right now. He's not an incredibly expensive piece by any stretch, especially to play left tackle and to play it well when he's really going right. But could they trade him, free up a bunch of cap space? They could. Could they extend him, free up some cap space? They could. But again, then he's on the roster. Could they just play out the season with him? They could. And he would be one of your starters. And that, to me, it could very well be your 3 game day tackles in 2023. It's almost as though they looked at Anderson and Reif and they said, let's add 2 players we think can play, and we think can play at a reasonably competent level, as opposed to overextending, paying somebody like Mike McGlinchey more than we're comfortable with, and having all of those resources go to 1 player. Let's divvy them up to 2 guys that we think we can get by with, and we'll go from there. They are not in the same kind of hole at tackle right now going into this draft as they were, for instance, going into the 2018 draft with a gaping need at left tackle. And they go get Isaiah Wynn. And then they actually go trade for the next day Trent Brown for even more tackle depth, which obviously they needed. They're not going into this draft with the same kind of gaping hole on the roster at tackle as they did last year, with a hole and a sizable one at that at guard after dealing away Shaq Mason, after not being able to re-sign Ted Karras. They needed a guard. Now, did anyone think that was going to come in the first round? No. But generally speaking, especially in recent years, what the Patriots have done is they have filled their most glaring need, immediate need, I should add, in the first round of the draft. That's not tackle anymore. So that's why I would say maybe we're focused on the wrong things. Now, does that mean they definitely aren't going there with their first pick? No. And if the right player falls to them, Darnell Wright from Tennessee is somebody that I love for the Patriots. I think he's a tremendous fit for them. If he falls, not only to 14, but maybe the Patriots trade back. They want a little extra scratch later in the draft, and he's still sitting there for them late in the first round. Does that mean they wouldn't go and draft him and then try to trade Trent Brown, free up that cap space? Riley Reef, play him at left tackle, play Wright at right tackle because that's where he's more comfortable? Maybe. I'm just saying, if things hold, Anderson's on the team. Reef is on the team. They're making real money. They're not going anywhere. Trent Brown, still on the team. That could be their group for 2023. And you could bypass the tackle group altogether, which brings me back to, let's focus a little more on the corners. Let's focus a little more on the receivers. Because I believe, the Patriots believe, they still have a need at both those spots. You're still looking for a boundary corner. You're still looking for somebody to throw to on third down. Juju Smith-Schuster might be that guy. He might be. To me, you have a little less certainty in Smith-Schuster than you did in Jacoby Myers. And so somebody like Zay Flowers, who we spoke at length about with Jeff Hafley in last week's podcast, is worth talking about in the first round, especially given how you'd be able to attack the middle of the field between Flowers, who gives you something different from Smith-Schuster, who gives you something different from Hunter Henry, who gives you something different from Mike Gesicki. Now you're really working the middle of the field, the most efficient area of the field, with a quarterback who's comfortable working the middle of the field, who can make the adjustments necessary, who can manipulate defenses with his eyes when he's well protected to be able to attack the middle of the field, short, intermediate, deep. That could have a lot of value. But so could corner, of course, right? And this is a strong, strong corner class. I spoke to a defensive assistant in the AFC recently, told me this is a little reminiscent of what was in the draft a couple years ago at corner. We had Patrick Surtain and J.C. Horn, and just the depth of that position in that year's class, especially at the top, was excellent. So now it's Christian Gonzalez from Oregon. It's Devin Witherspoon from Illinois. You're talking about maybe Deonte Banks from Maryland being the third guy off the board. Blew up the combine, 4.35 40, physical, excellent tackler, one of the best tacklers in this year's draft class across positions on the defensive side of the ball. Somebody I think the Patriots would really like to have in their system. Maybe it's Joey Porter Jr., all kinds of length, man coverage ability, ball skills. You're talking about some high-end talent there. And at 14, you could have 4 quarterbacks off the board in the top 10. You could have, who knows, 4 tackles off the board in the top 12. If the Patriots are looking at corner and saying, man, one of these guys any other year would be a top 10 player, but he might get to us at 14. That could be something you'd be really interested in. You could also be interested in receiver, which brings us to our interview with Quentin Johnston. Let's get to Quentin right now. Tremendous chat with this guy. Really enjoyed our conversation. We're talking about his mentality with the ball in his hands. 19 forced missed tackles last year. That was 11th in all of college football at 6'4", 215 pounds. Usually when you're talking missed tackles, you're thinking about water bugs. You're thinking about guys that are making people miss. They're juking them. They're sidestepping them. Johnston has the ability to do that at 6'4", 215. But he also has the size, obviously, to be able to run through contact as well. And he has the explosiveness and the overall athletic ability with the size to be able to make plays down the field. To me, he's somebody that a safety truly has to have his eyes on and has to be shading toward just about every snap. I think he could be that kind of player in the NFL. The Patriots don't have that right now. So we can talk about third down, and I think when we think about that down, we think about the slot receiver, we think about the Edelmans, the Welkers, maybe you think about the Myers, because he's been so good in that regard in recent years. But, third and long, who are you throwing it up to? Devontae Parker's really not that kind of guy who's shifting coverage. Can he make a contested catch down the field? Yes, and he's better at that right now than Johnston is. Johnston, and this is the knock on his game right now, is even though he's as big as he is, even though he's as athletic as he is, he's still not a tremendous contested catch option, or he didn't show it consistently at TCU. Now you can pull up his highlights and you can find them on his tape. He has the ability to do it. It's about doing it more consistently. But to be able to change the geometry of the defense, Johnston, to me, is really the prospect in this year's draft class as far as that goes. Probably not Jackson Smith and Jigba. As much as I like him, looks like more of an interior option. Julian Edelman type of quickness at a significantly longer frame at 6'1". It might not be Zay Flowers, although I think he has the ability to do that too. I think his athletic ability is special enough that you have to keep eyes on him the way you have to keep eyes on somebody like Jalen Waddle. I keep coming back to that comp for Zay Flowers. I love the fit for Flowers here in New England. But if you want the bigger body, if you want the consistent boundary option, it's Quentin Johnston. It's this guy who tries to model his game after Devontae Adams. Not a bad option there to be watching and studying and trying to develop the release pattern that Devontae Adams has, which is maybe the best in the game right now. This is all the sorts of stuff that we're talking about with Quentin Johnston in our conversation. Let's get to it. Without further ado, right now, here's the big-bodied receiver out of TCU, Quentin Johnston. There he is. There's Quentin Johnston out of TCU, one of the top, if not the top, receiver in this year's draft class. Quentin, thanks so much for being with us here on Next Pats, man.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you guys for having me.
So one thing that I love asking players headed into the draft, Quentin, is because there's so much talk about you guys right now, right? Whether it's us in the media, it's teams themselves. They're debating, okay, who's the best fit for us? Where should we draft player X? And their scouting reports flying. They're everywhere. I want to get the Quentin Johnston scouting report on Quentin Johnston and tell us what are the strengths of your game.
Yeah, okay, for sure. Obviously, being a receiver, big frame, 6'4", very, very, very fast, kind of elusive speed, I would say, because a lot of people don't really expect me to be as fast as I am, especially like in and out of my breaks. But aside from that, I feel like the strongest part of my game is my yards after catch, and you know what I can do after I catch the ball.
Tell us a little bit about that, Quentin. What's your mentality? Ball's in your hand, right? So you are in the middle of it. Bullets are flying, so to speak, right? But once the ball's in your hand, what is your mentality? What's going through your brain?
Yeah, I mean, shoot, honestly, score. I mean, I could be on the 1 yard line going in or the 1 yard line coming out. Like I'm just thinking of score, put 6 points up for my team.
When you look at just how explosive you were at this year's combine, Quentin, I mean, we're talking about some just rare numbers. You mentioned just how big you were, but you're in the 90th percentile and above when it comes to vertical jump, broad jump. I mean, your size is rare as well. How confident are you now, maybe leaving the combine? I'm sure you knew you were going to put on a pretty good performance there in Indy, but how much of a confidence boost was that week in Indianapolis for the NFL Combine?
Oh yeah, for sure. It was, huge for me. I feel like a big thing that I have is I always tend to show up on a big stage. Obviously that was a big stage. So, I walked in with all the confidence in the world, and, leaving it just added that much more confidence to me, going to pro day and then going into the draft and then, to my new home.
You mentioned your pro day that is coming up. You're at Exos right now in Plano, Texas, training. What's your focus right now as you're going through this stage of the pre-draft process? And obviously, your pro day is important, but you're getting ready to be in the NFL as well, Quentin. So what's your focus? What are you working on most right now, would you say?
Oh yeah, for sure. Just details, because I feel like up to this point my game is pretty solid, but at the same time I know that this is a different animal I'm finna go into, the NFL. So the details as far as in and out of my breaks, ball and hand coordination, just little things, learning the defenses more, getting ready to go into learning the offensive schemes and stuff, because I know that's going to be a big part of it right then. But once I get there and get all that stuff done, I feel like I'll be pretty cool and comfortable.
And how about the 40? I know you didn't run the 40 in Indy. Is that something you'll plan to do at your pro day? And how confident are you going into that particular test?
Oh yes, sir, for sure. That's something I work on every day at Exos, which is probably the main thing I focus on. Because the 40 is all about really really your start. You have a good start, and keep your head down. All the details, like I said before, details going into it. You're running good 40. So yes, sir. Right now, that's something I'm focusing on a lot.
All right, give us a little preview, Quentin. Just a little what are we thinking in terms of number on that 40?
Yeah. Let me. As far as the number, I can't really call it right now, but for sure, it's gonna be whatever you guys thinking and expecting right now. I'm do my best to meet that.
And you mentioned when it comes to the football workout part of it, you're working on getting in and out of breaks. Is that something that you've heard from teams as you've gone through this process, whether you're interviewing with them in Indy or elsewhere? I'm sure, teams are visiting, or have visited TCU to get more information on you. What's been the feedback in terms of some of the things that they would like to see you improve as you get into the NFL here and start your pro career, Quentin?
Yeah. A few teams said some stuff about the breaks, but I mean, like overall, I'm pretty good on it. But that's just me being mindful enough to know that the DBs are a lot faster and a lot quicker. Techniques is better, so they're gonna do their best to beat you at the breaking point as well. So I just gotta speed up that much faster. As far as feedback and stuff I got, a lot of teams would like to see me. I know it was a few plays during this past season that I was body catching and stuff like that. So kind of just get that narrative of Quentin Johnston's a body catcher, out of everybody's head, and high point the ball a little bit better. But I mean, besides that, that's about it.
Will that be something that you focus on the pro day? Make sure you get that in people's minds. Okay, everything's going to be plucked out of the air with these big mitts here.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then that's something that I did at the combine too. Kind of put that on display, as much as I can. I feel like I did a pretty good job at that.
Speaking of the combine, it was reported by Patriots.com. Obviously, this is of interest to us. We're covering the Patriots here primarily, Quentin. It sounded like you were quote unquote feeling the love from the Patriots. They said that you indicated that it might have been your best meeting, at least to that point, in Indy. What was it like meeting with that group? How much did you enjoy that experience?
Oh yeah, it was very fun and exciting. I walked in, obviously everybody was happy to see me, but I mean, overall the meeting just went smooth. We had good conversation. I felt pretty confident going out of that meeting.
Did they pepper you with any sort of difficult questions, Quentin? They just have a reputation of being, whether it's at the combine or during the season at their own facility, it's an intense operation. Was it an intense meeting that you had with New England?
To an extent initially, but then as the meeting went on, it kind of got more chilling and just got into some football talk, which obviously I'm very familiar with, so it was all good. After that.
One of the interesting things, again, about covering this team and covering the draft and players coming into the draft, Quentin, everybody knows something about the Patriots because they've been so good for so long, essentially for your entire life. They have been competing for championships, and they've had one head coach in Bill Belichick. What would it be like for you, having followed, I'm sure, the NFL as you have, and having seen the Patriots have the success that they've had? What would it mean to you to play for Bill Belichick here in 2023?
For sure. It mean a lot. Obviously, nothing short of a blessing. They've like you said, been winning games and championships since like before I could walk. So I mean, and like you said, with one head coach, obviously, he has a great idea of what he's doing. So just to be under him and the rest of his coaching staff would be amazing to me.
The Patriots signed Juju Smith-Schuster, who's a big name addition for them, but he's more of an interior player, I would say. They could use some speed. So, I think our fans that listen to us, that watch us, that understand the draft and are following the draft, they see somebody like you and they're saying, that's somebody we could use. We could use a little bit of that explosiveness on the outside. But I wanted to hear from you in terms of your experience at TCU. What was your favorite play at TCU? What was the play that you knew when it came onto the field and you understood your role in that play, that you had an opportunity to really make something happen? Could you break down what that play call might have been and your role in that play?
Yeah. So it's honestly a few plays that, I always get very excited about, the verticals, the crossing routes and all that. But I will for sure say one particular play that, came up big for us during the Michigan game was my little drag route I had, my under route. So for formation, we had it off. We call it ace, and then he'll just look to my side to give me Z. So X is 1, Z is 4. He'll do like X. Z. My bad. Z 4. fork is literally me, just based on me. Like everybody else is running dummy routes. So like that's a play that I for sure cannot mess up on. So like obviously there's a lot of nerves and stuff going into that play once they called it. But I mean, as soon as the ball snaps, I was very confident. So I just ran at the toes of the D line, came back, caught the ball, and only had one person to beat. Like I said, I'm very good at my yards after the catch, so I made something happen and went to go score.
You're a yak machine, man. And, when you track some of the more advanced stats, you go beyond the traditional metrics. I know Pro Football Focus had you down for 19 missed tackles that you forced this year. One of the best in the country in that regard, something that I'm sure NFL teams are excited about adding to their offense if they're able to add you to their offense. The last thing I wanted to ask you here, Quentin, is there a player, especially for some of our fans that maybe didn't get to watch you a ton in the college game, is there a player that you're molding your game after? An NFL name maybe that our fans might know?
Oh yeah, for sure. So somebody that I've been watching from the time I came into college to honestly still today, like I watch his highlights all the time, watch his film breakdown, his interviews and everything would be Devontae Adams. It's just somebody that when he comes off the line, it's like he always, like even against the best DBs, just seem to get him off track. Like he'll be running one route, make it look a certain way, and then break it off another way. It's just something that I've always been amazed with, and I always try to model my game as best as I can after him.
What do you think of his releases, Quentin?
Yeah.
A lot's been made of those. It seems like he has a pretty rare release package. What do you think of those?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's something that like he explained best. Like he doesn't go into the route thinking, okay, like I'm going to do this or that. He kind of goes off the DB and their movements, and it's something that's honestly like he makes it look easy, but it's not the easiest thing to do in the world. Just kind of reacting that quick, off of a DB. But I've been working on it as much as I can, to try to model that.
Well, he's a special talent. We had a chance to actually watch him up close in practices this summer during training camp. The Patriots and Raiders practiced against one another out in Vegas, and man, that guy's elite at everything. It feels like special talent. So makes a lot of sense that you'd be watching his game, watching it closely. Quentin Johnston, a special talent yourself, man. Thank you so much for being with us here on the Next Pats podcast. We really appreciate it. And good luck. Good luck with the pro day. And hopefully we'll be talking to you soon down the road. The Patriots have that 14th overall pick. You might end up going before that. Yeah. But if you end up in New England, we'll be talking to you soon.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
All right, there you have it. There's Quentin Johnston. We will have him back, or we'll try to at least. We'll try to have him back if and when, when the Patriots draft him in the first round. Would be a lot of fun. I think it'd have Patriots fans all kinds of excited if you were to hear Quentin Johnston's name on that Patriots card at number 14 overall, or maybe it's even a little bit later in the draft again if the Patriots decide to trade down. Anyway, thank you so much to Quentin Johnston for being with us here on Next Pats. Thank you all for listening to what is somewhat of a bite-sized pod, somewhat. I think we've still got some meat in there for you this week. We'll be back at it with another episode of Next Pats next week. So we'll talk to you next time. Looking forward to it. Enjoy the rest of the week, everybody.